Let me say something that I hope is completely unnecessary, which is why we actually do research. Why do we do research at this university? Why aren't we just spending all our time trying to make sure our lovely students do their homework and get the best possible experience at Michigan State? Aren't we cheating them by spending all this selfish time studying Greek history when we could be actually just teaching undergraduates? What's the point? The point is the following. There are about 3,000 universities, or not universities, there are about 3,000 colleges and universities in this country that can award a bachelor's degree. Thousands of them. And by and large, they do a pretty good job. If you look at a textbook in accounting, quantum mechanics, biochemistry that we use here, they might be using the exact same textbook at those other thousands of universities. And the student, if the student were actually the sort of ideal student, they could just buy a used copy of that book from Amazon for $1, literally $1, and just read it themselves and learn the material. So the syllabus, the material covered in undergraduate curricula, now I'm not talking about MIT or Harvard, but for most of these universities, including probably Michigan State, much of the material is the same across these thousands of universities. But there are only maybe 100 universities. We could debate how many there actually are in the United States. There are only a certain number of universities in this country that create new knowledge, that in 10 or 20 years will be in those textbooks. And that is your job. Your job is to be a world-class researcher at this world-class university, somebody who creates knowledge that someday, if everything goes well for you, will be in textbooks, that everybody at those thousands of other institutions learns, teaches and learns. Okay, so that's the most succinct way I can put it. If you just keep that aspiration in mind, everything will go well. Now, we strive to hire top faculty. Every one of you is the winner of a difficult competition. If you look at the task, as some of you get further along, you'll certainly serve on search committees, and you realize how much effort goes to select the next faculty member hired in your department. And you are the winner of that difficult competition, so you are fully capable of succeeding in all of these bullet point items that we hope that you'll succeed with. Publishing in top journals, garnering external grants, serving your professional society on conferences and boards. All of those things I think are fully within your capabilities. And the expectations are such that we actually expect that Michigan State faculty accomplish these things. These slides are online, so there's no need to photograph them or take notes. You can revisit them anytime you want. I'm sure you will. Now, the typical path that we see for most faculty is you've got to have, the reality of the research world being what it is you have to have your own typically somewhat narrow specialty, and you have to first get established in that narrow specialty and first start getting external funding, external support to do that. And then later on, the thing that we would like to see people do subsequent to that is to get involved in multi-investigator grants. So the most difficult thing for big universities like us is actually to produce these big interdisciplinary center grants that are ginormous, but really are very important to the overall health of the university. And so gradually we want to see people getting into that as they've already sort of established themselves in their own narrow specialty. If you're working in an area that produces valuable intellectual property, things that can be brought to market, products, we have a whole infrastructure here in our office, which actually helps you, for example, collaborate with external corporations in your research, and also to file patents, generate intellectual property, and even if you're so inclined to incubate a startup company or tech company based on your work. So all of that infrastructure is available to you. On your day, in your ordinary day when you ride your bike to your office and you see some students, all of it may seem invisible to you, but there's a very welcoming group of people that were you to have some idea or some interest even in how technologies are commercialized or how I can find a corporate sponsor for something that I'm doing that might be of interest to them. There's a whole team of people that are ready to help you. And I actually have encouraged the people on this team to go department by department and give talks and maybe try to visit your faculty meetings to make people more aware of what the opportunities are. But generally, I would say maybe we've been moderately successful in increasing faculty awareness that this kind of thing exists here, but I think there's still some gap to fill. So just want to remind you that if you do get some idea that falls into this category, there are people here that, whose job it is to help you and who are interested in helping you. There are competitive university-wide grant opportunities that you can apply for. And if you go to this link, you can see them. People often note that, so my background is theoretical physics. People often note that I'm always talking about some sort of gee whizzy STEM kind of stuff, technology, engineering, and there's much more to that. There's much more going on at Michigan State than that, obviously. And so, for example, there are actually focused grant programs, internal grant programs, which are focused on the arts and humanities as well. One of the traditional things that these HARP grants do is for people that, so if you're one of the book people, so among you there are people whose the main thing they need to do in the next 3 or 6 years is publish their book. My wife is one such person. She's a literature scholar. So we have grants that help you find the time after you've sort of got your manuscript in a certain form, you've got all this research done, but you really need to focus and polish it up and get it into the final manuscript form. We actually have grants that relieve you from your teaching responsibilities so that you can finish that project. So all of these opportunities are, information about all these opportunities are at these links. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about promotion and tenure. And in a way, the stuff on this slide is almost, there's sort of two aspects to this. One is that the way the promotion process works here, our office is actually involved in the evaluation of promotion and tenure files. So part of this is to sort of just inform you about how the system works here and make you aware of what the kind of expectations are. But secondly, I think part of the purpose of covering this material on the slide is to give you a little bit of career advice, just what it's like being a professor, assistant professor, what you need to do to succeed. So I want to cover a little bit of that stuff. Now, the way the process works here at Michigan State is the following. There's a departmental level review of your file. That advances to the college level. The college level may typically, we encourage them to, although there may be a few colleges that don't have this in place, a college level committee of senior faculty that review cases. And then at that point, it leaves the particular college and comes to the central administration, comes to us. And at that point, every file is reviewed by a committee. On that committee are myself. The files are presented to us by the dean of your college. And then on that committee is a group of distinguished faculty who are appointed and are in some area adjacent to what you do. So there would be a group of humanities type people, there would be a group of, say, physical science people, et cetera, et cetera. And it is that final committee that is advisory to the provost. And then the provost makes the final decision regarding the promotion. Now, she doesn't actually read all the files. So there are about 160 files generated and each file is like that. So there are about 160 files generated each year in this process. She does not actually read them. She typically looks at the problem case. I don't want to say problem cases. The cases where there's some issue, there's some disagreement in the process as to what the final decision should be. So I am actually believe it or not, and this takes up months of my life in the middle of the year, I am the most senior person at the university who reads all of those files every year. So I think I have reasonably good kind of background to explain to you how the process works. So so that's a description of the process. It is unfortunate that all the wonderful things you're going to do, say in your first 6 years if you're an assistant professor, teaching students, teaching in the classroom, getting grants, reviewing papers, writing papers, you name it, fixing plumbing in your lab, whatever it is, all that's going to get compressed into this stack of, it's not paper, it's a huge PDF file, but gets compressed into this document, and then we, who may not even know you, may have never met you, have to look at this document and then make a sort of life-changing, potentially life-changing decision. But that, you have to understand that that is what the process is. Just for practical reasons, that is what the process becomes. You become compressed into a file. A file is the main information that we have access to in making the decision for the promotion case. So just something for you to know. We regularly have promotion and tenure kind of coaching or informational sessions that I participate in and the deans participate in. So this is not your only moment to learn about the process at Michigan State. This is just to get something lodged in your head about it. Now, when I turn to guidance for you, career guidance from you, one thing I can't emphasize enough is that you are entitled to clearly stated performance expectations and annual evaluations from your department. Okay? So it should not be a mystery to you. You should not wake up in a cold sweat in year 4 or 5 of your assistant professorship and say, gee, what do I actually need to get tenure? I don't really know. These older people seem to have gotten tenure with much less impressive stuff than I'm currently doing, but gee, am I really doing enough? Believe it or not, that's a common situation as standards have risen over time. So you can't just like look at your older colleague and say, well, he did that and he got tenure, so I should be okay. Actually, that's not really even true necessarily. So rather than wait until that moment where you suddenly wake up in the cold sweat and realize, oh my God, I got to figure out what I'm doing here, you are entitled to have your chair explain to you in great detail what you need to do. Okay? It's not you imposing on the chair asking that question, it's the chair doing his or her job to make sure. We don't want any surprises in this process. If there's a no decision, we want it to be the case that the person kind of knew that there might be some question about the decision. There should never be a case where someone is absolutely sure it's going to be a yes and then it turns out to be a no. We never want to see that situation. And your part of that is to be proactive and to demand or just ask for what you're entitled for, which is clear guidance. Also, everyone is entitled to an annual evaluation, and that annual evaluation goes in your file and it is part of the package that we look at. And oftentimes we'll have situations where the recommendation from the department is X, but we notice by looking at the annual evaluations that the annual evaluations are saying not X. And that's a real issue for us and for the dean and the chair of that department. So those annual evaluations are important. You should make sure they're fair. You should review them. If you get an annual evaluation that you don't like, you should go back to your chair or personnel committee if you have one in your department and talk to them about it. And those annual evaluations should be there. They should be rigorous, and you should be satisfied with what's in those evaluations. Now, I'm aware, painfully aware, that there is quite a lot of variation in the quality of administration. This is a big university. There's quite a lot of variation in the quality of administration here. You might be in a department where your chair, maybe you don't have a personnel committee in your department, maybe it's a small department. Maybe your chair is not good at rigorously evaluating performance each year. If that's the case, you are totally entitled to, I would be very careful about what you do here, but you are entitled to talk to your associate dean or dean about this and try to get your department's performance up to par. When we see it, when we get a file and we look in and we say, hey, there's no annual reports for this person, what the hell is going on in your department? It's a big deal for us. But we can't actually completely fix the problem because sometimes there's turnover in the chair, some new chair gets put in place, and that person doesn't know what they're doing. So I have to actually ask you guys to help us make sure that administration is uniformly high quality here. So unfortunately, that's just the situation. Now, I hope that your department has strong mentoring programs. So hopefully every one of you who is a junior faculty member has a senior faculty member assigned to mentor you, to meet with you regularly, to have lunch with you, to hear you cry, to congratulate you when you get your first big external grant, whatever it is. Well-run departments should have that. Again, if you come in and you find your department's not well run, I don't know, maybe send an anonymous note to your dean, send an anonymous note to the associate dean. I don't know exactly how one should handle it. I mean, obviously it's delicate, but anyway, from my perspective, if those kinds of mentoring programs are not present in your department, then in my view, there's a problem. Yes?
Would you say something about the role of external letters and how to think about external letters over time?
Yeah, very good. Now, again, I don't want to transform this into the sort of promotion and tenure review meeting that we have. Those regularly happen, and anyway, but one of the most important inputs in the file is the external letters of evaluation. Typically, there are 5 or 6 letters in your file. Half of them can come, roughly speaking, best practices. Half of them can come from people that you've worked with, that maybe know you, but the other half should come from people who don't have a strong relationship with you, who are just, as far as anybody can tell, unbiased evaluators of your scholarly accomplishment. And so you are also entitled, that's an important process there, where you are able to submit some candidates who would be in the first category of the first 3 recommenders or evaluators, but you're not supposed to be able to suggest people for the second category. And so I don't know if that's what you wanted me to cover, Paul. Yes. So if your departmental personnel committee or chair is doing a good job, they should be able to zero in on the relatively small number of people, given how specialized academia is these days. There's probably a relatively small pool of people who can evaluate your work, who really know enough, who really carefully read at least some of your recent papers, right? So you already kind of know who that pool is going to be, their opinions are likely to be solicited in that process. So I guess what I'm trying to, part of what the viewpoint I'm trying to promote here is to view this thing as a process, understand the rules and the mechanisms in that process, and then you can just be a little bit more strategic about it in your own career. Any other questions about this? Don't forget, if you don't want to raise your hand, you can write it on a sheet of paper and she'll read the question. Yeah. Oh, great, excellent. Yes.
One is, if we're interested in establishing industrial partners for our research, is there an MSU office to connect with that can help establish that?
There is. It's called Business Connect. It's right across Grand River from campus. They have a beautiful office space, probably too nice actually, and they would welcome you if you were to email them or go over and have a meeting with them, and you have some interesting ideas about how what you're doing in the lab might be of interest to companies outside the university. That is what they exist for. Now, we have a number of things, programs which exist to help you get external grants. And so at these links you can see resources. They range from things like seminars and workshops in which people are explaining to you, like, this is how you write an NIH grant, this is how you do X, Y, Z. Ranging from that to, if you're part of a collaboration that's trying to do a big multi-PI, investigator proposal, our office may even supply fractional time with an experienced grant writer to actually help your group coalesce, figure out what the ideas are, actually help you write the proposal. So those resources actually exist as well on campus. Our goal in our office is to help you succeed in your research. So we invest in all of these kinds of resources. We even have external consultants. So we have consultants that are, say, this person is an NSF expert, this person is an NIH expert, and they will come and meet with you. So you can schedule time to come into our office, sit in a nice cushy room and drink an espresso, and this person will listen to you and give you feedback on what, okay, maybe you should change your introductory statement in this way, maybe you should do this or that, this diagram isn't clear. So we even have people like that. So take the little bit of extra effort to try to avail yourselves of this resource, because we're investing in these resources to help you. Our goal here is for you to be successful. The university has, you're the winner in a very difficult selection process. We're pinning our hopes on you. We hope that you're here for the next, 40 years of your life, productive time here. Your kids grow up, go to Okemos High School, like my kids. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. I will never, as far as I can fit in my schedule, I will never turn down a meeting request from a faculty member. Okay, that's my philosophy. If a faculty member reaches out to me and says, hey, there's something I really want to talk to you about, I will meet with you. It might be 8 in the morning or 5:30 at night, but we'll meet. And again, all these resources are online, so if anything I said it too fast, you can just go back and find these slides and find the link that you need. And I'm really looking forward to more questions. Any more questions? Somebody raise your, this is the part where you've given this beautiful lecture on the periodic motion of planets in the solar system, and then the students all are just staring at you. Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering if there are any arts-based research methodological communities on campus.
Wow. Art, did you say arts-based? Wow, you've stumped me. Does my brain trust here want to help?
I guess you've got Matrix within Com Arts, which they're working mostly in some media areas. Road's actually providing some as well. The Road Museum has a number of collaborations across campus as well.
Go ahead.
There's also a digital humanities group on campus as well.
And Provost Hewitt recently hired an associate provost named Judith Stoddart, who is catalyzing groups that are collection-based for museums and other archival and similar holdings, and arts generally, so that our office will assist in this regard, but you should also perhaps consider contacting Judith. So.
Any more questions? Oh, here we go.
Can you comment on the structure? So I'm in engineering, and now the challenge of where engineering's responsibility to promoting research and your responsibility for promoting research, where that line sort of falls?
So there's no hard line. Every one of your colleges has an associate dean for research. And those are people that we work very closely with. So, you know, within the plumbing of the university, obviously there are these distinctions, like the way that a starter package is funded for a new faculty member, where the funds come from. Some come from the college, some come from the central administration. So there are these sort of dividing lines, which I think are not particularly interesting to the average faculty member, but our goals are pretty strongly aligned. So the first place for you to go if you have some interesting idea is to go to your, you know, within your department, but then beyond that, the Associate Dean for Research in Engineering, John Verbancourt. And then he can transmit those ideas to us. And I would say there's very little, you know, our interests are quite aligned in terms of what we're trying to do on campus. It's just the question of whether, you know, he reports to Leo, the dean, whereas on my team, the people would report to me. But basically what we're trying to do is almost exactly the same thing. Okay, well, good luck, everyone.